Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this edition of Leak Project. I am your host, Rex Bear, and we have guest Mike Norris, son of Chuck Norris, with us, and we're going to discuss this awesome new feature film, Amerigeddon. It's an issue of dire warnings to Americans right now. Now, it was released Friday the 13th, and Amerigeddon, I'm going to just read this real quick, coming to theaters nationwide, has been described as the movie the establishment doesn't want you to see, showing what happens when a not-so-future U.S. government conspires with the United Nations to stage an attack on the energy grid. Amerigeddon depicts a country ruled by martial law, in which citizens are stripped of their constitutional rights and freedoms to own guns. Now, a group of patriots fight back and rescue the country from slipping into irreversible chaos. I got to tell you, Mike, this movie really hits close to home, and here's why. I'm 38 years old, and over 20 years ago, I was warned about martial law, UN, FEMA camps, people having to go through checkpoints, new funding, a mark of the beast, microchip type scenario where everybody's basically connected to a grid. So first off, thank you so much for coming out here with us today at the Leak Project. How the heck are you?
I'm doing great, Rex. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. This is just great, and I think it's really important that this information gets out to the masses because people have kept their heads in the sand way too long. If you would, real quick, Mike, just give our audience a real brief description about yourself, and then we're going to segue into this film and why it's so important right now.
As far as myself, I think, you kind of hit it right on the nose at the beginning. You know what? I start first and foremost, I'm Mike Norris, and I am the son of Chuck Norris, and it's something I take very seriously. My core principles were really grounded by my father growing up and understanding and just watching, his principles and his values. And, I'm just blessed to, really be able to kind of follow in those footsteps in my own small way, and especially with the film Amerigeddon. It opened up this weekend, and I'm just absolutely floored at the support and the response we're getting from this film. It's, we weren't really sure. When we started this project 2 years ago, all the stuff that we're dealing with wasn't really brought up in the mainstream press at all. None of it. And it wasn't until I think, when Trump kind of got into everything, and he just really poked the beehive and got people to start talking. So I just think the timing was perfect, and the message is starting to resonate with people. We've had 2 screenings in the last 2 nights with audiences, and we were able to open up the floor afterwards and do some Q&A sessions and kind of talk to the people and kind of get where they're coming from. And I was just absolutely blown away at the response and at the people that are now kind of awakening to what's going on, what's really going on behind the scenes with our government. Because I wasn't that knowledgeable on all this stuff. I hate to say it, but I was an awake sheep, let's say. I was kind of awake to what was going on, but I was so busy in life, working, raising kids, and all that stuff. And it wasn't until Amerigeddon I started thinking to myself, this is real serious stuff. This is real serious. And it was like we were saying, we saw Captain America last week, I think, and I was going, man, this is a great movie. I really enjoyed it. But then I was thinking about Amerigeddon. I'm going, you know what? This is a great movie that if you take this information we give you in this movie, it could save your life.
And that's what's most important. I go back to the MIAC report from 2009, where they basically point fingers to returning veterans, gun owners, Christians, people that might have back in the day when Ron Paul was pretty popular, stickers of him on the back of their bumper or something. So they're really pushing this attack on middle-class people as well. And that movie that you brought up a minute ago, the Captain America films, there's so much symbology and subliminal messaging in Hollywood today. If people watch many of these films that are out there, they probably only pick up about 5% of what it's actually doing to your entire mind because the subconscious is so powerful. And, when you grew up with your dad and stuff like that, was he telling you about possible scenarios in the future with UN coming in and rounding people up based upon their beliefs and stuff like that as well?
No, not at all. This was a long time ago with my dad, and I don't think it was until about the last 5 or 6 years that we started really fully grasping Probably, it was maybe a little bit longer than that, I think, but till we really start fully understanding what was happening, the criminal cabal of Washington and the moneyed interests, and it's been going on for so long. But I think now with the internet and people able to get access to information that was very hard to get, just let's say 10 years ago maybe, now people are able to kind of research, go into the archives, and, in our film we've got direct quotes from Henry Kissinger, George H.W. Bush, a number of people, words from their own mouths saying that basically, Americans are too stupid to govern them, they need us to live. And they're saying that, and what they're doing is trying to shepherd in a new world order. And they're not even keeping it a secret anymore. But I think the average citizen doesn't even know what the new world order is, or the Illuminati, or whatever it is you want to call it. I think people are just so kind of focused in on, just trying to wake up, go to their job, find a job. How are we going to pay our bills? Everyday life stuff that, unless they do a little research, they're just going to keep going, walking blindly, and one day all hell's going to break loose. It is going to come so fast and so hard, and people are not going to be prepared. And that was really the essence of Amerigeddon. A lot of Hollywood movies now, they'll talk about the New World Order or something about an EMP strike, but it's all so buried deep within the movie, and they don't play the seriousness of what it really is. They just don't tell you about the seriousness. And with Amerigeddon, what we wanted to do, and I use this in the most respectful way, but we kind of wanted to dumb down the message for the masses that they could, and I am one of those, that we lay it all out there on the line about executive orders, about moneyed interests, about what will happen if martial law is declared, what are the ramifications if by chance our country is hit by an EMP strike. And it's known right now, twice a day a Korean satellite flies right over the United States, and we don't know what's in that satellite. And there's actually a Dr. Pry, who is with the Homeland Security, knows very much about this. And he knows very well that is our biggest threat. And his thing is, why don't we just shoot this thing down? Why don't we shoot the satellite down? So it was very important that we delivered a message that people could kind of understand without burying it in all these massive special effects and everything. It's really the information in Amerigeddon that is the most important thing. And we kind of lay it all out there. And what our hope and our prayer is that people kind of go, oh, what did I just see? Let me go back and look. What is this Executive Order 13603? What is an EMP? Why does the average American only have 3 days of food? So we really wanted to just kind of lay out in a simple way a scenario just to get people talking. And we've been really amazed at the groundswell of, patriots and people that are awake that are coming to support this film, and they're the ones that are really pushing this and then pushing out the message through social media. So really blessed as far as that goes. But it's a very serious subject matter that we want people just to kind of be aware of.
Well, and also with the subject matter being so dire, especially with the implications of possible martial law. Now, I've been keeping track of many series, like, the Jericho series was really good, that showed kind of what would happen if there was a false flag, fake, or not fake nukes, real nukes, but they weren't by an outside source, more of an inside source to create this new system. And then I've talked to people that have actually spoken with presidents and been very high up in politics, and they think that the biggest threat isn't another country, but a homegrown type terrorist here at home, which makes me think that most of these countries are playing ball. They're working together, and they're trying to do anything they can to quash any type of resistance that doesn't want to go through this New World Order process.
Yeah, you know what? You're absolutely right. And it was Henry Kissinger that said, once there is chaos in America, that is when the New World Order could be shepherded in all its power. But they need an unstable America. And I'm telling you, if America isn't unstable right now, I don't know. I think the average American knows how unstable we are as a country right now. And it is not just foreign powers. I personally think it is all tied together. We're all in this together, the whole world. As far as the globalists, the elites, the politicians, they don't care. They do not care about us. They only care about themselves and their pocketbooks, their money, and the lobbyists, and that's the only people they answer to. Now, I could go on a deeper level, and I personally, just me as a Christian man, I believe that it is a spiritual battle going on, and that these people on the upper levels of the elites have sold their soul to the devil, and for money and power. And that was kind of what that was one of the messages we were trying to convey in Amerigeddon.
So you guys actually talk about the spiritual battle as well, then?
Well, not so much in this film. I was just talking about me personally. Okay. We wanted to kind of get the message out, and we've got plans to expand on the message in the next film, but go into a deeper level of the spiritual battle that's going on.
Well, and I got to say, Mike, I mean, personally, I'm not a religious person, but I certainly appreciate everybody's beliefs and what they choose to believe. And I think that you hit the nail on the head when you say it's a battle, because how about all these people that have fame and fortune that are in Hollywood and in these higher echelons of the entertainment industry that come out on, certain talk shows and openly admit that they sold their soul to the devil?
Yeah.
They openly admit it. And then there's people out there that can say, oh, well, they're just joking. They're just, they're just trying to get more media and a spin on it. But I think that they really, truly think that they did sell their soul.
I absolutely. Yeah, I've looked around and I've kind of seen where, people, and I think they think it's funny, but it's not. It's a very serious thing. And but Hollywood has a very strong agenda, and I think in a lot of ways. Now, most of the people, 98%, whatever, they're just working, trying to, they want to make movies, they want to do whatever, but deep down there is a message that somebody is pushing through Hollywood to get out to the masses and just dumb us down, desensitize us as a country. So we are not prepared if there is any type of whatever disaster it could be in America, a financial collapse. In our film, it's a nuclear device launched from a satellite, but it could be one of a number of things. It could be through the internet, a solar flare, a number of things that could just throw our country into a tailspin. And what's really scary about that is if we do lose power, people are going to think, oh boy, we've lost power. But 2-3 days into this, all hell is going to break loose in this country, because when people cannot get their government assistance, their food stamps or something, they will resort to any tactics to try to feed their family. We see it happen all the time, riots breaking out, looting taking place. And like we say in the film Amerigeddon, people will go to extremes to try to feed their family.
Oh, yeah. I mean, can you imagine a week later being in a big city or someplace like Flint, Michigan or something? It'd just be insanity. And, it could be just that 3 days that you're talking about as well. Maybe some type of bank holiday, a virus within the system that takes away certain monies or funds. It could be a number of things. And do you think that, this could happen within the next year or so possibly?
Anything's possible. Anything's possible. I just think, man, with this political climate right now, it seems like everybody's nerves are just, on the left or on the right. And I'm neither. I'm neither left or I'm right. I am, if I had my druthers, I'd love to see Rand Paul in there, but that's not going to happen. So I just think there's a lot of confusion. I think we're being pumped so much information that people are starting to get confused over what the real issues are. Everybody's going, well, I want free college, and I want free this, or we want a wall built around the border. It goes so much deeper than all that. But I think, with this whole Trump phenomena, what he's doing is love him, hate him, Trump, he's his own mess, but this is a guy that is really going out there and opening up these doors of secrecy and saying, hey, the media, the mainstream media are liars, and they are lying to you. There are people, and it's all about money and power. And I think that's kind of interesting, and that's why I think Amerigeddon's resonating so much right now, is just because, a lot of people are curious. And let's just look at, kind of what somebody's saying from a movie perspective. Now, when we filmed this movie, all Trump was doing was The Apprentice. So he wasn't even on the radar, and I find it very interesting how by the time, we'd written the script, filmed the movie, edited the movie, and then all of a sudden Trump comes on and we're getting ready to release the movie, and it just seems like perfect timing. Now, like I said, I'm not such a big political guy, but, it doesn't take a genius to just kind of look at the world and go, something's up and something's not right.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's almost like we live in the Twilight Zone right now. It's kind of like these people that do control the top levels, they feed off of this dark ecstasy. They just like to give the audience and the masses sweet poisons, whether it be in the food or the pharmaceutical industry or whatever they're doing. Now, one thing that I think is fascinating is, Chuck Norris, your father, obviously everybody has heard of Chuck. I mean, there's so many cool sayings. Chuck Norris doesn't do push-ups. He pushes the earth down. And I'm sure you've heard that your whole life. But I really appreciate the values and morals of you and your father and what you guys present to the media. And what you look at today is we need more people like you and your father out into the mainstream so people can remember what it's like to be a human being. And you've got so much mishmash in the media, this pushing of transhumanism, now it's transgenderism. And, when your dad was putting these cool movies together and Texas Walker, I mean, it's really this archetype of a strong man to help people out. You've got this duality. You've got the man and the woman. And now it's just, you've got this, you know what I mean? It's just crazy.
Well, yeah. And what is this? I mean, what is the transgender population? I don't know, what, 0.03%? I don't know. But why is that the stuff that is front and center in the media? It's ridiculous. And all it is to get people's attention off of what's really going on. Let's talk about bathrooms. Big frickin' deal about bathrooms. You know what? They should have left it alone, and it's ridiculous that we're even talking about something as stupid as that.
Right.
Hey, if somebody has those issues, I feel bad. I feel bad that they're so confused that they're going through that. But just to have that much media attention going towards it just goes to show you that they want to keep your mind off of what's really happening. It is all a diversion tactic. Everything is a diversion tactic with the media and the government, and it's just building and building. And I'm sick of it. I'm really sick of it. I am and that's why I've made a lot of films. I've done a lot of things, but it wasn't until now that with Amerigeddon that I've kind of stepped up to that cliff, and like it or not, I am now part of the resistance, and I just believe that that's where I was supposed to be at this time in my life, and thankfully, because of this, I'm now far more prepared than I was 2 years ago to just be able to come face to face with whatever's going to happen. I am prepared now. I'm just ready. Without divulging everything, I am now far more prepared than I was 2 years ago when we started this project. So it's been a huge blessing for me, just not only to be a part of it, but also to learn from our own film.
Absolutely. Now, also, how do people get out to, can we just go to I'm in San Antonio right now. If I want to go see this film, can I go to the local movie theater and watch it? Or, how can we get this out to all the theaters so people can have a chance to see this?
Yeah, it's in San Antonio. Our film's playing in San Antonio. Right now we're in, Phoenix, Denver, all up through Texas, all the way to Grand Rapids, Michigan. We're actually, after this weekend, we're expanding the theaters. People were kind of upset, going, we can't get this movie in our area, and they were kind of getting a little upset. But there's a lot that goes into getting a film out there, getting it recognized, and we didn't go out and spend the money on our marketing that, these studio films make. And we were getting, everywhere we went, theaters were like, no, we're not going to play this movie here. And, this is crazy. We don't want people coming to our theaters with guns. And, that was their mentality after watching Amerigeddon. And I think they were afraid of it. But through, our trailer, our Facebook page, we went from 1,000 views to 10,000 views, and then all of a sudden people started spreading it around to, we're up to in the millions of views on our trailer now, with hundreds of thousands of people interacting daily on our Facebook page. So, and plus we did really good this weekend. We actually, per screen average, beat George Clooney's film this weekend. So we're ready to kind of go out a little wider, but I just, I encourage people just, if this is something that resonates with them, to call their theaters and say, we want this movie in our neighborhood. And like I said, we went from just 30 screens this weekend. We're going to 100 screens next weekend. And that is strictly driven by people that understand what's going on. They know that the Washington is a criminal cabal, and they're coming out to support this cause. We can't compete with a Captain America. We can't compete with, these big studio films coming out. So our audience, they are the ones driving this. We're doing the best we can, trying to get the word out there, but it's really the people that have seen the movie, that are now sending it out. Hey, we've seen the movie. We love the movie. You've got to go support this film. And I just can't be more thankful enough, because that's how I feel a movie should get out there. It should be the people that decide, this is what we want to see and this is what we want to support. Because it costs $100 million to put a movie in a theater, just for the promotion and the marketing, hundreds of millions of dollars. We're just doing this by phone calls. Yeah, we're talking to anybody like-minded. The alternative media, Alex Jones has just been such a great help to us. So that's how we're pushing this movie. We cannot buy people's minds. We cannot buy that. For this movie, it's people that go, we get it and we want to support it. And to me, that is an amazing thing.
Oh, that's wonderful. And certainly, please feel free to send us a poster banner for our website and our YouTube channel. We are hitting about 40,000 people a day right now, some very astute listeners and people that are well educated that know about this kind of stuff, many of them, and want to tell their friends about it. This could be a great transitioning piece to give to a friend. Go watch this movie with your friends that are a little bit on the fence or they don't know what to think, and this might give them more of a perception, because the media is so powerful. And if you go back to certain times in your life where you think about something that you've done previously, how often do you relate that to what you've seen on TV? And let me ask you a personal question, Mike, because you've been in media and your dad has been in media for so many years as well. Have you noticed over the past, let's just say 20 years, that movies, films, entertainment has become very occult type, where they're pushing all these sizzles and messages and subliminal imagery and stuff and pushing these agendas, where you didn't see stuff like that back when there was films like National Lampoon's Vacation and stuff?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Absolutely. The whole thing about subliminal messaging is so strong, and it's been going on for so long. And, people are feeding into it. It's almost like, with kind of like the new social media. I'm not a big guy on Twitter, whatever it is. I think I've got about eight people or something out there. I don't know. But the information being put out is just so fast and furious, and the subliminal messaging is really wreaking havoc on our country. And you know what? It's going to come to a point where we're going to end up with a cashless society. We're going to end up with chips in our body to be able to have to purchase food and goods. So it has been a battle that has been brewing for a long time that is really coming to a head right now. And it was interesting because last night at the theater, they were playing the upcoming previews for a number of movies, and I noticed a lot of them were very much government conspiratorial films. And I just hope that they are portrayed accurately and not watered down with a Hollywood slant on it where, hey, this is cool, this is hot, this whole conspiracy thing, and let's make a movie about it. But, we're going to give them enough to tickle their ears, but we're going to put our slant on it. That's one thing we did not do at all. We are not beheld to anybody but ourselves on Amerigeddon. We put out the message we wanted to put out, not the one Hollywood wanted it to put out. And we've had resistance like you wouldn't believe from Hollywood. Giving our film an R rating at the beginning, which was absolutely ridiculous. We've got no real cussing, no nudity. It's a patriotic message for patriots. And, giving us an R rating, and I had to go and fight the MPAA over this. And I said, this is ridiculous. We're getting an R rating. And so I had to kind of appease them a little bit. And they go, well, if you take this blood splatter out of this one shot, we'll give you a PG-13. So I even had to compromise a little bit. But it's and with distribution, nobody wanted to take this film. They go, yeah, we get it, but I'm not sure. And it wasn't until our audience, the people on our Facebook, and kept calling into theaters, kept posting on the boards, and getting millions of views on the internet, that now all of a sudden Sony Pictures is going to distribute our film in the DVD and VOD market. So I don't know if they think, wow, this is great, or because they surely don't want to send this message out, but they're thinking now dollars and cents, going, hey, now let's jump on this now that all the work's done and they've created this groundswell. Now we're jumping in. But it's kind of a necessary evil because we need them to get the DVD part and the VOD part out to the masses. But we did it in the theaters. There was no way we were going to get any publicity or anything for Amerigeddon through Hollywood. So that's why we had to put it out in theaters. And like I said, we just go, let's start out small, and if the audience likes it, if they support it, we could grow with it. But we weren't going to, like I said, we weren't going to try to buy people to come see the movie. We had to let it happen organically, and thankfully it has.
And the organic movements are always so much more powerful and last longer. It's the ideas that these people at the top levels are afraid of. So this could also lead you down other paths as well in broadcasting. I mean, you could have streaming channels and news networks with, true reporters out there getting accurate information. Now, I don't know if you remember back in 2011, I think it was, the administration released a bill called the Peacetime Martial Law Bill, is what they actually called it at first. And I talked about this and did some blogging about this after it happened, and for whatever reason, they changed the name to a Strategic Relocation Act. And at first it was called the Peacetime Martial Law Bill, and a few days later they changed it because there was probably quite a bit of blowback on it. But this bill basically says they can take your food, they can take your cars, they can use you for labor and tell you what to do, when to do it, and they can decide how much to pay you. Now, with the movie that you put together, Amerigeddon, did you guys discuss some of these bills, and was this kind of a precursor to these, these roundups?
Yeah, yes, in a way. Gary Heavin, my partner in the film, who wrote the screenplay, is probably one of the most knowledgeable people I know on this. He's a very, very wealthy man who has sat in the boardrooms and the bar rooms with a lot of the establishment elites. And although he knew it, he understood a lot of the nefarious activities that were going on. I think it was about that time that he finally said, you know what, this is crazy, and I'm not going to stand up for it. And he wanted to expose it. Now, here's a guy that relatively young man still, has billions of dollars, can just go out and live his days and in quiet solitude. But he's put at risk not only his money, but everything to go out and expose what is going on. And he gave last night, after one of the showings, we did a Q&A for about, 15, 20 minutes. And the theater was packed. It was sold out. And afterwards, everybody in that theater stayed and listened to him talking. And he gave one of the most impassioned, beautiful, scary talks I have ever heard. And he had this whole theater standing up and cheering, ready to fight this resistance. And, so most of my knowledge comes from discussions with Gary. That's where most of my knowledge comes from. Now, while I was editing the film, I wanted to make sure I gave the most accurate representation of Gary's story, because this was his story, his idea, and I have to applaud him, because that is a bold statement. Who really wants to, with billions at risk, who wants to, that takes a man to step up and say, you know what, I'm sick and tired of this. I'm not going to take it anymore, and I'm going to expose it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because it seems like some people, the more money they get, the more they feel like they have to protect, so they'll kind of back off. And to use his money, time, information wisely like that to help the masses, I certainly applaud him for that. It makes me think of a while back, there was an article that came out where there's this little piece of land in South Dakota. It was an entire township, actually, but it was pretty small, had a post office and a bar there. And they were trying to get like $280,000 for it, essentially, for the whole thing, your own township. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if you've got that kind of money to spend on some land, go pick that up. Could you then start your own pick up your own sheriff, your own mayor, etc., and kind of start grassroots around the country in these rural areas where the government could care less if there's people there, so you could pick up, like I said, an entire township for less than $300,000 and just kind of help educate people. I think education is so important too. So coming out with films like Amerigeddon, where you're also educating people in an exciting manner that really hits home as well, that could also help people for future generations, our kids, our children's children, etc. Because we're either going to go down one of two paths, it seems like, Mike. We're either at the cusp of something incredible and amazing, or it's going to be this very dark, horrific possibility that could come to play. If these people get pushed in a corner that have these assets and monies and they're just literally psychotic, but they're also brilliant just because of their DNA or whatever you want to call it, or their greed, they could just say, look, we're in a corner. We've got one of two options. We can either give in, or we push that button, we create global chaos, and people aren't going to care anymore about kumbaya because they're going to be looking for ways to feed their family, like you brought up earlier.
Yeah, that's interesting what you said, because that is our two options. What you said, it is, like when you were talking about with that town, because I think, first off, I think Texas is positioned well. I think Texas has the mentality. First off, our power grid is, and excuse me if I don't nail this exactly how it is, but I know in Texas we are able to, I think our grid, we have two big, what are they called? It's escaping my head right now.
We mean like the energy, we can basically produce our own oils or our own fuel, and
yeah. And I really think Texas could end up being some sort of safe haven. If everything collapses, I think creating new communities is going to be the new norm, where people that are like-minded are going to come together and rebuild. And if not, then it all just goes away. Because after an EMP strike, if an EMP strike were to happen, and this comes from Congress itself, in 1 year, 90% of the population in America will die in 1 year. So unless people come together now and go, okay, let's have a plan if this happens, that's the only way we survive. That's the only way we survive. And so I think community, come together in communities of people that understand, and it's just going to be like the old Wild West again, and we're going to have to rebuild. But I really think the state of Texas is greatly positioned to be able to push through this if that were to happen.
And do you feel that might have been why Jade Helm was positioned so much in the state of Texas as well?
Absolutely. And I've seen it myself. We were going somewhere and we saw tens of thousands of plastic coffins along a fence line. And, they've already said we've got guillotines here ready to go. I mean, why do we have thousands of guillotines? Why are there hundreds of thousands of coffins right here in the state of Texas and I'm sure throughout the country? What on earth is that doing here? What purpose will that serve us? So, to me that is a very scary, scary thing, because I think somebody wants us dead, and it's going to be up to us to stand up and fight. And look, I'm no superhero, and it scares the living crap out of me of what is to come. And, I often wonder to myself, if somebody comes to my door and says, hey, I want your guns and I want your gold, and whatever else I may or may not have. That is now ours. What would I do as a man to fight against that? And that's the scary thing. In my head, I could go, hey, nobody's going to do that to me. I'm going to stand here and fight. But when it really, really happens, and there are guns facing you, what is it that you're going to do? And I think 99% of the people are going to go, oh, you're right, here, you take what I've got, and, we're going to just go along peacefully. But they're going to end up dead is what's going to happen. Or they're going to go to camps. They're going to FEMA camps. They're going to have to work, just like we were talking about earlier. And I pray to God that I would have the ability to stand up and fight and protect my family. I will protect my family at any cost. That's a given. But when it gets a little bit bigger, what is my role going to be in this? And so it's really scary. But nobody wants to hear about this. Nobody wants to hear about what could happen, what will happen, and what are we going to do then? They are just, like we were talking about earlier, man, if they could just wake up and their car starts and they've got a job to go to and they could pick up a gallon of milk and a dozen eggs on the way home, everything's great. But when that stops, all hell's going to break loose.
Oh yeah, I mean, just watch some of these YouTube videos of the Friday after Thanksgiving where people are beating each other up, punching grandma in the face for a cheap plasma television set. It's horrific. So, if you see stuff like that, it's just the primal side of some people that are out there. They have no idea. They're so engulfed within their own stupidity. It's just horrible. So, Mike, I think that it's just wonderful that there's people out there like you, man. I mean, because the world does need people that have a knowledge base and have connections. Gary, what he's doing, that's amazing. What your dad does and represents is fantastic. And I certainly hope that this turns into a domino effect and more people continue to unplug and wake up. And let me ask your opinions on some of these recent events that have taken place, like Sandy Hook, the Boston Marathon bombing. Do you feel that those were legit, or do you think that those were false flag staged events to help with the cause of taking people's guns as far as the masses is concerned?
I personally feel that they were false flag events, personally. But that's a very slippery slope, because if I don't know, I don't recall ever seeing the bodies coming out of Sandy Hook, and they may or may not. I just don't recall right now. But there was a lot of conflicting stories going on, and I noticed a lot of people happened to be at the Sandy Hook thing that were at the Boston bombings thing, the same people being interviewed, and it was one of the things we used in our film, crisis actors, and we call it out. We're in part of the film, we go door to door in a drill, in an exercise. It's so blatantly an exercise, and one of the guys resists. He shoots one of our soldiers with a paint gun. It was all an exercise. And he says, hey, man, after he, gets called out and is backed into a position, he goes, hey, man, I'm just a crisis actor. I'm just a crisis actor. So, I pray to God that nobody was actually killed in that. But, with the Boston bombing, what was it Gary and I were talking about? It was and maybe you can help me. AK mind control.
MK Ultra stuff.
MK Ultra. Yes, that I think is something that people should really look into, because I think there are a lot of people being brainwashed to create these scenarios, these false flag events, and they don't even know it.
Right, like they're being triggered or manipulated some way, and that's why. Yeah, and I think that people, that's why they need to be aware of what they're watching on TV, and be careful if you're one of those guys or gals that goes to sleep at night with the TV on, and that helps you go to sleep, because then you're in an even more susceptible state of accepting whatever's being force-fed into your subconscious, because there's nothing there to filter it out now, and you've got all these pharmaceutical commercials that come out. Oh, take this red pill. You might feel better, but you might want to kill yourself and get cancer later.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the pharmaceutical industry is one of the biggest players in all this. Absolutely. We've got a nation addicted to psychotropic drugs that it's just going crazy. And I'm just, we are as a country at a state that is just at the boiling point, ready to go. And it's really sad. It's really sad that it's come to this, but this has been in the works for a long time. This isn't something that's just taken place in the last 20 years. This is something that goes way, way back. And like I said, it's not a Democrat thing. It's not a Republican thing. To me, they're all bad.
Well said. They're just two sides of the same coin. You know, they'll fight each other in the media plays, but then behind the scenes, they might be drinking beers together and eating hors d'oeuvres. Who really knows what's going on in D.C.? But have you heard of the Milgram experiment?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, it was an experiment that was done back in the 80s where basically they took people off of commercials or ads saying, come in, we'll give you X amount of dollars to do 1 hour of research. And these people would go sit down and they would be told by somebody that was wearing a white coat that looked like a doctor that some other people came in that wanted to quit smoking. So they're hooked up to electronic shocks, and you push this electronic shock, it shocks them a little bit, you keep doing it, but it's going to help them quit smoking, whatever. And they would push the button until the person on the other side was literally, it sounded like they killed them. You know, they would put, ow, ow, screaming and flipping out, and they don't make any noise anymore, but the doctor keeps saying, well, push the button again, and they would just keep doing it. And the percentages of people that were doing this to the point of no return, at least what they thought, it wasn't really being shocked, it was an actor on the other side, but they would just do what the person in the white coat told them to do because they thought it was the right thing, because that's the way that they were psychologically conditioned. So it really makes me wonder how many people will just be submissive. Okay, yes, you know, take everything, take my food. Yes, you can take my family and put them into a reconditioning camp to make them think better for the new system. Yes, please do that. I really wonder how many people will just fold down. And then with the media, you could have maybe just one street of people that are very submissive and that just give everything up, and the media could blast that all over on every single channel, and then that could make people more submissive and conditioned to think that there's nothing we can do.
No, you're right on that. We were in Houston a few days ago doing some media for the film, and we flew in and we were driving to the Fox station, and we saw a line of people gathered around a building, and it was a food pantry. And Gary looked over and he says, that's our future right there. When people control the food and you have to stand in line and given rations of food, that's our future.
What do you guys?
That's scary.
It is scary. And have you guys ever thought about getting a network of very good constitutional lawyers and land lawyers, et cetera, and just putting a position in place where you could kind of set up a foundation for the future of our liberties and our freedoms?
You know, I have not. I haven't. I have not. But I know Gary is very active in, you know, not so much through law getting that done, but just as a citizen of community. He's got it to where his whole community will be protected. He's put his resources into being able to sustain his community for, you know, a year or whatever it may be.
Let our audience know that's kind of strange. You know, we're having a good conversation here, and then all of a sudden, bang, we get disconnected. So,
is it strange, or is it somebody trying to shut us up?
Yeah, I would definitely say what you just said would probably be the more likely situation, because I've got an awesome connection here. It was going perfect, and then we got into what maybe someone thinks is a sensitive subject, and then all of a sudden,
yeah, and then when I try to call you back, I can't get through to you. So,
yeah. Welcome to the wonderful world of freedom.
We're going to finish this off anyways.
What's that?
I said we're going to finish this off anyways. I don't give a crap what people are trying to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? This is called freedom of speech. We do live still, at least last I checked, there is what's called the Constitution. I know a lot of people that have positions of power think that it doesn't really matter, but it does. And it does say in there that we do have freedom of speech. We can talk about stuff. And this isn't anything classified or military defense position somewhere overseas. We're just talking about stuff that people might want to consider to protect themselves. And hopefully there's people that have positions of power right now that will have an opportunity to listen to this podcast and say, wow, maybe I should wake up. Maybe I shouldn't just follow orders blindlessly without knowing what I'm really doing.
100%, Rex.
Yeah, man. Mike, I got to tell you, this has just been such a pleasure to speak with you, because I feel like paths cross for a reason, and this happened for a reason. I feel like 25 years ago, when I was 13 years old, I was warned about what could happen in the future, which is exactly what is in the film Amerigeddon. And I got to tell you, I usually don't talk about this stuff a whole lot, but the hair is standing up on my arms right now just thinking about it. I'm telling you, something is just flowing through me right now, some energy. And people need to be aware of what could happen. At least have enough food and water for yourself and your family if you want to, if it really matters to you, to where you could take care of yourself for a week or so and learn some skills, learn how to do something. Because even if you've got a year's supply of food, if there's somebody that can take over your home and get into your stuff, well, what are you going to do to protect your future family if they've taken everything? You've got to know how to grow food and find it, and just take care of yourselves. But regardless, I'm kind of going on a rampage here, Mike.
Yeah, but you're really right about that. I mean, for such a small investment of money, and I mean just a couple $100, get enough food and water just to feed your belly if something were to happen while you're trying to figure out what your next move is. And I can't emphasize enough about community. Find people out there that are like-minded. Have a plan to protect yourself and your family. It is so important, and there's a lot of people, a lot of websites out there that you could get this stuff, buy the food, get the water, get some water purification things, because if by chance the power grid does go down, in just a matter of days, the sewage is going to back up. Everything's going to be contaminated, and just give yourself enough time to, when the shock is over and you've got time to figure out what your next move is, that you need to fill that gap and just have those supplies necessary, but have a place to go. Have, know somebody like-minded and say, hey, I want to be able to, it's like with Gary. That's where I'm going. I'm going to that community, and I'm going to become a gardener, or I'm going to become somebody I'm just going to become a guy that's going to help a community try to thrive and survive. That's it. Because you know what? Movies will be over. It's all about living then. It's all about fighting then. And so I really encourage people, just do a little research, be able to survive that first onslaught that's coming, and then be able to have a plan after that. Unfortunately, I know most of the people won't, but I really implore people just to get a small, just be able to maintain yourself for a week or two and have a plan to get somewhere safe.
Well said, absolutely. And another thing that I've wondered too is, I've heard about the different colored lists, and I know that most people do have a threat matrix according to certain DOD type stuff. But in your film Amerigeddon, do you talk, or is there any connection where they've got the roundup list where people have certain orders? They go after the media guys first, the alternative news, or?
No, in ours, it's really about disarming the population and subduing resistance at any cost. That is the ultimate message from the bad guy's perspective in our film. Disarm the population and subdue resistance. So, yeah, that's kind of where we're coming from on Amerigeddon.
Well, that's fantastic. And, I certainly appreciate you spending your time with us, Mike. I know that you're super busy, you got a ton going on. I would strongly recommend that our listeners go to AmerigeddonTheMovie.com. You can watch the trailer there. You can find a theater close to you. And like Mike said, call up your movie theaters close to you if they're not being filmed there and say, hey, we're not being shown there, and say, I'd like to watch this film. It could bring you some good revenues. And once the mainstream realizes that this is going to bring in a lot of money to them as well, because you can profit off of truth. I mean, what's wrong with making money off of truth and waking up people instead of profiting off of dark ecstasy and lying to others and keeping them confused? Like, I brought up the transgender thing earlier, and I don't care what somebody's opinion is. I mean, if they want to be a girl and they're a guy, or if they're confused or whatever, that's not where I was going with that. Where I was going with that is, you've got little kids out there that watch TV most of the day because their parents don't do anything with them, and that's the kind of stuff that's on TV. And maybe if they're already a little bit confused, they watch that kind of stuff, and it just messes with their heads even more, so they don't know where to go with that. So it's just nice when there's identity and people can set a foundation somewhere. And with the old school, when I say old school, you look at the 50s and even all the way up until I think 2001 is when it's just never been the same since September 11th, 2001, in my opinion.
No, I agree. And that is all my kids know. My youngest twins were born in 2000, and that is the world they grew up in, and that's all they know, and that's all they've been fed. Thankfully, my wife and I are able to monitor the intake on the bull crap information they take in, and they are wise enough now to understand. I mean, my two youngest are 16, so they're now able to understand that the stuff coming out of the TV is a bunch of propaganda BS. And look, we made this movie for an educational reason. I mean, that was the number one reason we made this movie for education in an entertaining way. As far as the money and all that stuff, that's just what that allows us to do is go make more films that expose more stuff. That's it. Gary doesn't need the money. He's not doing this for the money. And probably any money made on this will go back into causes that Gary's passionate about, which is very much protecting our freedoms and exposing the darkness that is within this country. That's where the profits of this go. It goes to more entertainment, exposing more of the criminality going on, and so that's why I encourage people to go out, watch the movie. I understand it's a $8 investment, and that doesn't go unknown to us. We know that. We appreciate that, but that's the meter we live by. That's how in this business we determine success. But with Amerigeddon, it's already a success only because of the people that have seen it, and just by witnessing last night, people standing up and asking questions to Gary, what can we do about this, or what can we do about that? And he so eloquently just laid it out there from his perspective. And I believe just last night, it was almost like a little mini revival of people asking questions and walking out of there going, wow, this is something come Sunday that I'm going to look into far greater than I've ever looked into it before.
Yeah, absolutely. And also I've noticed like Netflix, Amazon Prime, there's been a lot of films and documentaries of alternative media type stuff, which maybe 10, 20 years ago, the mainstream wouldn't have even touched. And now you're starting to see it sprinkled out there more. So those could be also very good platforms to get this film out after it hits the theaters. And then maybe you guys could set up some type of streaming channel as well. Now, one thing that I find interesting is you look at CNN, Ted Turner, and back in the day, 30 years ago in the 80s, when news actually, they did go out and find some truth, and it wasn't 100% CIA scripted. I think nowadays it's pretty much just all scripted by these alphabet agencies and just the highest bidder, whether it be a corporation or whatever. But regardless, with what you're doing, Mike, and with what Gary's doing, I think it'd just be incredible if you guys could, maybe set up a platform with this as your cornerstone, coming out with all these films and documentaries and getting reporters on scene when certain events take place. For example, you look at the events when in Oregon they had that standoff with the different, I think it was the Bundys, and then also
Leroy Fensican was killed there, murdered there.
Right. And it was like they did that to show the masses, look, we're not gonna play your games, or we're not gonna put up with your crap. This is how we're gonna respond. And everybody, that's got to have a serious impact on people. Wouldn't it be nice if there could be reporters out there that you knew were 100% legit, that had like GoPros strapped to their hats and stuff like that were getting in there, seeing what was really going on, and then sending that information back live stream, and not having to just rely on what Fox News or CNN says?
No, absolutely, and there are people that are starting to do that. I have become involved with the Oath Keepers, and they were out there on the scene documenting this, and they were actually playing mediators between the FBI and the group up there in Oregon, and they did it the same thing at Bundy Ranch, and they're reporting it out, through social media. So there are those people out there. There's but I don't know, do we need to find one big platform that everything goes to, or is it a bunch of smaller platforms? I don't know right now. Right now, where I'm at, that's kind of a tough one for me to digest.
Sure.
But I would hope that there's somebody out there that has the knowledge and the finances to say, hey, I want to do this. I want to create this platform where these people that are speaking the truth in media can all come together on a platform there that's all combined. I think that's a brilliant idea. I'm a movie director. I'm a storyteller, and so that's a little bit outside my realm, but I'm all for it, and I would be more than happy to support it in any way I could. But I think it's genius, and I would love to see somebody do it. But there are people out there like yourself, like the Oath Keepers, a number of people that are out there getting in the trenches and getting the truth and reporting it, and it's dangerous.
It is dangerous. That's one of the things about being an independent film producer or a reporter that wants to get to the truth. It seems like their lifespans, I'm sure their life insurance is much higher.
Yeah,
I should be laughing about that, actually.
I mean, I've got them. But I'm not going to be pushed around by bullies behind a computer screen, saying I'm going to end up like the director of Gray State. But you know what? A bunch of crap. I'm not going to be bullied by these people. I'm going to keep on telling my truth, and that's all I could do.
Good for you, Mike. I certainly appreciate everything you do, and I want to get this film out to the masses as well. So, folks, make sure to check this film out, Amerigeddon. Go to your local theaters, call them up, say, get this here. We want to watch this. And also check out the website, once again, Amerigeddonthemovie.com. Mike,
yes, sir.
This has been great, my friend. I really hope we have the opportunity to talk again sometime, and thank you for everything.
You got it. I appreciate it, Rex. Have a great day.
You too. You have a great day.
Bye. All right, bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this edition of Leak Project. I am your host, Rex Bear, and we have guest Mike Norris, son of Chuck Norris, with us, and we're going to discuss this awesome new feature film, Amerigeddon. It's an issue of dire warnings to Americans right now. Now, it was released Friday the 13th, and Amerigeddon, I'm going to just read this real quick, coming to theaters nationwide, has been described as the movie the establishment doesn't want you to see, showing what happens when a not-so-future U.S. government conspires with the United Nations to stage an attack on the energy grid. Amerigeddon depicts a country ruled by martial law, in which citizens are stripped of their constitutional rights and freedoms to own guns. Now, a group of patriots fight back and rescue the country from slipping into irreversible chaos. I got to tell you, Mike, I mean, this movie really hits close to home, and here's why. I'm 38 years old, and over 20 years ago, I was warned about martial law, UN, FEMA camps, people having to go through checkpoints, new funding, a mark of the beast, microchip type scenario where everybody's basically connected to a grid. So first off, thank you so much for coming out here with us today at the Leak Project. How the heck are you?
I'm doing great, Rex. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. This is just great, and I think it's really important that this information gets out to the masses because people have kept their heads in the sand way too long. If you would, real quick, Mike, just give our audience a real brief description about yourself, and then we're going to segue into this film and why it's so important right now.
As far as myself, I think, you kind of hit it right on the nose at the beginning. You know what? I start first and foremost, I'm Mike Norris, and I am the son of Chuck Norris, and it's something I take very seriously. My core principles were really grounded by my father growing up and understanding and just watching, his principles and his values. And, I'm just blessed to, really be able to kind of follow in those footsteps in my own small way. And especially with the film Amerigeddon, it opened up this weekend, and I'm just absolutely floored at the support and the response we're getting from this film. It's, we weren't really sure. When we started this project 2 years ago, all the stuff that we're dealing with wasn't really brought up in the mainstream press at all. None of it. And it wasn't until I think, when Trump kind of got into everything, and he just really poked the beehive and got people to start talking. So I just think the timing was perfect, and the message is starting to resonate with people. We've had 2 screenings in the last 2 nights with audiences, and we were able to open up the floor afterwards and do some Q&A sessions and kind of talk to the people and kind of get where they're coming from. And I was just absolutely blown away at the response and at the people that are now kind of awakening to what's going on what's really going on behind the scenes with our government, because I wasn't that knowledgeable on all this stuff. I hate to say it, but I was an awake sheep, let's say. I was kind of awake to what was going on, but I was so busy in life, working, raising kids, and all that stuff. And it wasn't until Amerigeddon that I started thinking to myself, this is real serious stuff. This is real serious. And it was like we were saying, we saw Captain America last week, I think, and I was going, man, this is a great movie. I really enjoyed it. But then I was thinking about Amerigeddon. I'm going, you know what? This is a great movie that if you take this information we give you in this movie, it could save your life.
And that's what's most important. I mean, I go back to the MIAC report from 2009, where they basically point fingers to returning veterans, gun owners, Christians, people that might have back in the day when Ron Paul was pretty popular, stickers of him on the back of their bumper or something. So they're really pushing this attack on middle-class people as well. And that movie that you brought up a minute ago, the Captain America films, there's so much symbology and subliminal messaging in Hollywood today. If people watch many of these films that are out there, they probably only pick up about 5% of what it's actually doing to your entire mind, because the subconscious is so powerful. And, when you grew up with your dad and stuff like that, was he telling you about possible scenarios in the future with UN coming in and rounding people up based upon their beliefs and stuff like that as well?
No, not at all. This was a long time ago with my dad, and I don't think it was until about the last 5 or 6 years that we started really fully grasping. Probably, it was maybe a little bit longer than that, I think, but till we really started fully understanding what was happening, the criminal cabal of Washington and the moneyed interests, and it's been going on for so long. But I think now with the internet and people able to get access to information that was very hard to get, just let's say 10 years ago maybe, now people are able to kind of research, go into the archives, and in our film we've got direct quotes from Henry Kissinger, George H.W. Bush, a number of people, words from their own mouths saying that basically, Americans are too stupid to govern them. They need us to live. And they're saying that. And what they're doing is trying to shepherd in a new world order. And they're not even keeping it a secret anymore. But I think the average citizen doesn't even know what the new world order is, or the Illuminati, or whatever it is you want to call it. I think people are just so kind of focused in on, just trying to wake up, go to their job, find a job. How are we going to pay our bills? Everyday life stuff that, unless they do a little research, they're just going to keep going, walking blindly, and one day all hell's going to break loose. It is going to come so fast and so hard, and people are not going to be prepared. And that was really the essence of Amerigeddon. A lot of Hollywood movies now, they'll talk about the New World Order or something about an EMP strike, but it's all so buried deep within the movie, and they don't play the seriousness of what it really is. They just don't tell you about the seriousness. And with Amerigeddon, what we wanted to do, and I use this in the most respectful way, but we kind of wanted to dumb down the message for the masses that they could, and I am one of those, that we lay it all out there on the line about executive orders, about moneyed interests, about what will happen if martial law is declared, what are the ramifications if by chance our country is hit by an EMP strike. And it's known right now, twice a day a Korean satellite flies right over the United States, and we don't know what's in that satellite. And there's actually Dr. Pry, who is with the Homeland Security, knows very much about this. And he knows very well that is our biggest threat. And his thing is, why don't we just shoot this thing down? Why don't we shoot the satellite down? So it was very important that we delivered a message that people could kind of understand without burying it in all these massive special effects and everything. It's really the information in Amerigeddon that is the most important thing. And we kind of lay it all out there. And what our hope and our prayer is that people kind of go, oh, what did I just see? Let me go back and look. What is this Executive Order 13603?